Happy new month and a beautiful morning to you from the city of Abuja. Welcome to the Advent Cable Network Nigeria. This is another exciting edition of Now Streaming, your morning talk show where we address burning issues, celebrate good news, and discuss topics that have the potential to change our lives. I'm your host, Mojisola, and I have with me this morning in the studio, Barrister Ikechukwu Wakama. He is a legal practitioner. You're most welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Nice to have you on the show again this morning.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Viewers, we will be talking about the trending news this morning, Wednesday, the 1st of December. Do remember to call in with your comments and questions through the number shown on your screen and via our social media platforms. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. And our first story this morning is on your colleague, your learned colleague, who is, we're going back and forth. He says he's not been arrested, and then EFCC say he's been arrested, and then the media is saying he's been arrested, and he keeps claiming he's not been arrested. What's up with that?
Yeah, in fact,
that's Fanny Kayode.
Yes, I know the person you're referring to.
Well, for our viewers this morning.
I find it very strange why the noise or the whole controversy as to whether he's been arrested or not arrested. At one point, he claimed he was invited, he was not arrested.
Yeah, invited for lunch.
Yes, for lunch. Very uncommon in our Nigerian setting for a security agency to invite you for lunch in their office. So it's quite uncommon. But the controversy surrounding whether he's arrested or not is something I feel is very unnecessary, and which goes back to him maybe misunderstanding what arrest means. You don't need to be confiscated per se or be handcuffed for an arrest to have actually been done.
Okay.
Once a person submits to any authority, voluntarily submits, an arrest has been done. Or
really?
You've been touched. That's why we said using the mere word "you are under arrest" does not suffice to arrest a person, unless the person voluntarily submits to the arresting authority, and in this instance the EFCC, or the person has been touched, not seized. Once a police officer or any arresting authority touches you, then arrest has been done.
So in short, we should not allow, don't shake hands with police officers.
Until that is done.
Don't bump fists, don't shake hands.
True, until they touch you.
Are you serious?
Yes, if they don't touch you, and if you don't voluntarily submit.
So
then
what of the people that, you see, in the movies.
Yes.
I've not really seen it.
Yes.
But you see where the police officer will go and they will forcefully take the person with them.
Now,
is that not also an arrest?
Yes, because at the point of forcefully taking you into custody, it means that they've actually touched you. So at that point, arrest has been completed. But
all my police friends, no more saying hi to you.
Then in this instance, they can again use reasonable force to effect an arrest, and unfortunately, it can be a ground to even to mitigate the consequences of right to life. You can actually, there can be a defense that this life was taken as a result of police effecting arrests. So that's why we tell people, don't resist arrests. Just submit. Then back to the conversation, which is my learned colleague who is saying he has not been arrested.
Yeah.
He has forgotten that once you voluntarily submit yourself, that is an arrest. And I heard the media came out to say, then why are you on bail if you're not arrested? Which is a very good question.
Yes, I was going to ask that.
Because if it's an invitation, you don't need a shorty. So, criminal
a shorty
proceedings.
For lunch.
A shorty for lunch. Oh, definitely. I'm just hearing this.
If you were invited for lunch, then you don't need a shorty.
You don't need a
lunch.
shorty.
You just show up and have lunch.
He is taking arrest to mean solely when you've been confiscated. We are saying no. That's your willingness. That your voluntary submission to the arresting authority on its own makes it an arrest. So that kickstarts every criminal proceedings. Is either you are summoned or you are arrested. So having voluntarily submitted to them, don't come back and start telling us you are not arrested, because that was why the shorties are even requested for. so that you'll be able to present yourself each time they invite you back to the
and the matter is
station.
actually in court.
Yeah, you know, we've not actually ascertained why they invited him. Let me use your language for the lunch.
For lunch.
So, but again, he has a criminal proceedings already ongoing for either 4.9 billion,
4.6 billion.
4.6 billion. Thank you for correcting me. Yes, during the time he served as aviation minister. But that alone does not immune him from further arrests. So
I think I'm seeing a bit where he would be uncomfortable with arrest if he's not looking at it the way you're looking at it. To the minds of a lot of people, you won't be arrested if you're not guilty. That's into the layman on the road.
True, I get
you. Know,
I get you.
They're arresting. What did you do? You know, they wouldn't just see it as, okay, come and explain yourself and tell us why we should not hold you back and all that. So I guess maybe that's where he's getting a bit uncomfortable.
The stigma associated with
arrest. There is a stigma associated with arrest. Should it be?
Well, in the part of this country, well, generally all over, people just have that feeling that once a security personnel is accompanying you, maybe to their van or to their station, you must have committed a crime. Again, that is the perception that people has. Of course, perceptions in most cases are not correct. But if we look at it squarely as it should be, that is an opportunity and a right you are exercising to appear before an investigating authority to explain yourself. So the stigma attached to it is completely unnecessary in my view.
Okay.
Because at one point or the other, you might need, it might not even be that you are coming to the security or to the arresting authority to answer a particular criminal allegation against you. It might be that they are inviting you to be able to support an investigation. Oh. And in that situation, they might need to bring you to their station to be able to explain to them.
Is that also an arrest?
That may not be, it's an invitation.
Okay.
But the moment you are asked to bring a shorty, then you are under an arrest of the arresting authority.
I'm happy to announce to all media people that we know how to speak English.
Maybe I should.
You know, because he said that media has gotten it wrong twice in a week, and I'm like, we can't all not get it right
it's not
like that.
So maybe I also read in the media where he's saying that there is already a criminal proceedings against me, so I'm only being asked to come back to them. Of course, like I said, we don't know what has actually led to this situation, but the reality is that there is a criminal proceeding against you does not immune you from facing other criminal allegations against you. And let me give an instance. Today, he's facing a criminal charge of fraud or corruption, as the case may be. Tomorrow, he might commit other offenses. Let's say maybe a traffic offense or something even lesser than what he's facing. The arresting authority definitely will have right to arrest you to face to face those kind of issues. We've seen that happen over and over, especially with these activists. If I remember his name, I'll tell you that they arrested him in court premises, even though we condemn that.
Okay, that's
to say
interesting.
You cannot, you shouldn't.
So
at least
after the case,
yes,
and then he was arrested again.
Yes, as he's stepping out, they arrested him, and when they interrogated, they said we have another charge against him, and we needed to bring him to bear.
They really meant business.
So if you look at it squarely and legally, that cannot be wrong. So I will appeal to him to properly educate the public, which he should know that once you voluntarily submit to an arresting authority, that insofar means that you are under arrest.
Okay.
And it's not a crime to be under arrest. It's a crime when they refuse the arrest.
And then they now have to
maybe force you or even say that you are trying to prevent the arresting authority from exercising their lawful power. So he shouldn't make it an issue.
So in short, it's not a big deal.
He's not under any immunity per se. Why? So why can't they arrest you?
Thank you. On a more sober note, we have the COVID-19. Nigeria confirms Omicron variant and steps up vigilance. 2 cases have been discovered through genomic sequencing. That's Center for Disease Control, the NCDC, Nigeria Center for Disease Control. And that was as at this morning, we have 2 cases that have been discovered. Okay, later on they're saying it's 3, not 2. And yeah.
And I can assure you there are more. You see, the problem with Nigeria and other African countries is that we don't have what it takes to even do testing in a large scale. You will understand that during those periods, that for you to even get tested in most quarters, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, it was a real...
Yes, almost 35,000 naira, or in some cases 40,000 naira for you to get tested.
To get the test.
And this is our minimum wage.
Yeah.
Even far above the minimum wage. And if you go to some places, they'll tell you, no, this place is restricted, so you can't really do your testing here. So are we even testing enough?
Oh, no, I don't think we are.
If you look at the sequence that even led to them even started making attempts to see if that particular variant is in Nigeria, is when the Canadian authority reported
yes,
that...
and that's actually our next headline.
Yes, that's
they're saying that they've added 3 countries, incling Nigeria, that they tested
Egypt
2 Nigerians. And Malawi.
True. They tested 2 Nigerians that arrived.
And that has become the dream destination for most Nigerians. And now they're saying...
from the problem of Nigeria.
We're on the travel ban because of COVID-19. This particular, the Omicron variant of COVID-19. Yeah. Yeah,
so if you look at it, you see that we need to step up our testing capacity and the way at which we reached out to people to test them. Then beyond that is also the politics of the vaccine, which we have now seen that in Nigeria, less than 2% of Nigerian population has been vaccinated.
Or even have access to the vaccine.
And many people too are even resistant to the vaccine. I share an experience with you. When I went to do my vaccine, I first went to a stop point in Gariki Market.
Okay.
So when I got there, they used to be there. So they keep directing me, go to the left, go to the right. So I got tired and I asked the security man, please, I'm looking for these vaccine people or people that does vaccination. He told me that, well, they stopped coming since last week because people weren't turning out. I said, why? He said, people say they're not coming, that once they take the vaccine, they react to it. You know, normally they have fever and all that, which
is a normal reaction to vaccines generally.
So, and I was not shocked. I said, okay, what of you, have you been vaccinated? He said, okay, I took only 1 shot too, and the team, I said, I get fever. I said, I know they take another one. And I tell my family not to take another one. So you see there's a lack or a void in information.
Absolutely.
Dissemination of those information. There is resistance to even taking vaccine in Nigeria. And then there is poor testing facility. There are corruptions that are embedded on these vaccine and corona issues, which has now
I was reading on social media, somebody had that experience. She went to get the vaccine, and a health worker pulls her aside and says, you're a young girl, you never marry, we don't know how this thing is going to work on reproduction and all that.
True.
But I know you want to travel, so if you give me something, I'll give you a certificate saying you've taken the vaccine, and then everybody's happy. And she came out on social media to say, help.
And that will explain why some countries, they don't recognize our vaccination card. Coming from Nigeria, even when you show them the vaccination card, they will insist that you be quarantined, you be isolated,
either tested or isolated
for a certain period of time. So we have to take this thing seriously. The Center for Disease, Nigerian Center for Disease Control has to step up with enlightenment, not the one you receive by text messages. Have to do more to sensitize the public, and then to make sure that we have a very large testing capacity to be able to detect on time these particular issues, because God has been very favorable to Nigeria, if I will say that our cases are quite low.
You see, okay, you're even talking about testing centers and then a resistance to vaccination. We have another percentage that don't even believe COVID-19 is real.
A lot of them.
That's another percent of the population. We have the group that know it's real, believe it's real, but will not go to the hospital even if they were dying of cancer.
True.
They would rather go to Yalagbo. That's the herbal, the woman selling herbal medicines. And they're a large percentage of the population. During the COVID lockdown, I believe a lot more people had it. But
True.
I don't know if I'm going too fast to call it a phobia for Western medicine. Like, some people just don't believe in Western medicine for any reason. Like, even if they have, so we have, and like you said, that information gap where the government is actually not informing. All they're saying is making decrees, and and the man on the street is looking like, talk your talk. It's my life.
True. True. In fact, I even understand that they are now making it more compulsory for people in civil service to make sure that they are vaccinated
but then
before they
if
resume work.
a civil servant falls into one of these three categories, the vaccine resistance category.
There's even a bigger issue to a religious dimension to it.
There is that.
Yes.
They're the end time theorists.
Yes, where people are saying, I have rights to religion and to my opinion. And when it comes to vaccination, this has to do with me protecting myself, even though that is not correct, because you're not just protecting yourself, you're also protecting the public.
Other person.
Yes, and the persons that are.
I guess on this, the take home for our viewers would be what?
For
protect
me,
yourself.
Well, if I look at the, you are very correct. If I look at the Antichrist theory, it doesn't hold water, for the reason that there are other ways to even bring in, if indeed they want to do it that way.
Other more effective ways, actually.
It wasn't by giving you vaccine. And then for those who say, I don't know how I'm going to react to it if I get it.
That's a genuine concern.
I agree, but the greater fear should be, you don't even know how you're going to feel if you get the virus. You don't even know whether you're going to survive. So it's an issue of placing risk as against what your concerns are, right? You have to evaluate the risk and all that. For me, my own point is that if you think you have underlying health issues, please discuss with your medical experts to know whether the vaccine is very good for you. But if that is not possible, then please, you can take the vaccine. I don't have any problem. I've taken it, and I don't think it's an issue.
Nice.
True. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now the other major headline that has been literally breaking the internet this morning has been on the NSAS, the Lagos NSAS panel's report. And so I'll just take all the headlines and then we have a small chat on that before we move on to our topic for this morning. So we have the NSAS white paper. Lagos government releases a report and faults the panel's report. It says it was not a massacre and only one person died. And then we have implementation of the panel, Sacred Duty for Sanwo-Olu, and this is by Odinkalu. And he's saying they have to. You can't put people together, have them spend over a year investigating something and then come back to say their investigations were wrong. And then we have Governor Sanwo-Olu coming out to say, okay, let's have a peace walk. Have you seen the images this morning?
I did. I did.
So let's have a peace walk. Let's build a peace park and have something for peaceful protests. And we have people like Seun Kuti, who was invited to join the peace walk, saying no. We have Fowles saying no. We have, what's his real name? It's his media name that is coming to my head, Mr. Macaroni.
So you walk alone.
So, yeah. I saw that poster. So we have the prominent faces at the NSAS protests coming out to say justice, and that's what Femi Kuti is saying. Not Seun Kuti, not Femi Kuti. Seun Kuti is saying justice first and then peace walks. You can't. So it's like, yeah. Let's hear your thoughts on the whole drama this morning.
Your guess is as good as mine, and to every Nigerian who had seen the way government is treating the NSAS reports. And I asked myself this morning, how do we even get to this point? How? It is completely unimaginable. One life is too many.
Absolutely.
You can't begin. If you look at this, the build up to NSAS protests, It's against police brutality. It's against brutality of security agencies. That the people have said, we are tired of this. We have called upon you, government, to do something. And you have failed to do something. And we are coming out as citizens to say, please, we want this thing to stop. And even in the process of stopping police and security agency brutality, the people were also brutalized. I think that is the point we have to even start from.
So even if nobody was killed, the mere fact that somebody was harassed
alone, is it enough? Is it good in the standing and standard of how security agencies should conduct themselves? Is that the best we can get from them, particularly given the circumstances of that particular protest? And in a rush to debunk the paper or the report of the panel of inquiry, the Lagos State government failed to understand, if even admitted some facts unknowingly to them.
Do you understand?
The fact there was a gunshot, live gunshots on that scene. The fact that people died, and if you look at the grounds upon which they are rejecting the report, they are saying it's only one person that died.
So the question is whether it's one person or it's 15 people.
Of gunshots.
Of gunshot wounds.
But are you saying that there could be deaths as a result of stampede? Must all deaths arise from gunshots? So it brings to bear the value that we have placed on human life, the value we have placed on rights, the fundamental human right of people, that has gotten to the point where government is now seeing a report from after a painstaking process,
and,
saying that
who
we are
set up the
rejecting
panel?
them. They did. They
so if
empowered
you
them.
didn't trust in the abilities of your own
Perhaps
panel,
they were not expecting the report to come out the way the report came out.
Oh, okay. They were hoping that the report would come out and say, "Oh no, it's fine.
Yes,
nothing
just
happened."
and that if you want, they went to the market trying to debunk all our sanctions, trying to see how they will say they did not do the right thing, they did not invite persons and all that. And I'm saying, why are you expending so much energy in doing such a thing when you should, as a government, even sit down to examine some of these reports? It was as if they are now the defendants in this particular case. They are the ones defending the action of the police or defending the action of persons that lost their life as a result of the activities of security agencies at Loki toll gates. And I'm saying it's very condemnable. And the rush at which you are condemning a report that took over a year in less than 1 or 2 weeks is very alarming. It's showing as if you don't care.
We had the Honorable Minister rejecting it within 24 hours.
Oh, you can see.
We had him saying
so you can now
it was
see
a farce.
How the nation has been divided and delimited in the lives of those who are government and the people who are citizens. And it baffles me more too, because it is the primary responsibility of a government under the Constitution to protect lives and property and ensure the welfare of the people. The moment you fail to protect lives and property, even if it is life of one person, you have failed in your duty.
Absolutely.
I would have expected Sanwo-Olu and other government to come out and apologize to the people, to say what we have done and what the security agencies have done is wrong.
The truth about it is, I guess what you're saying is the feelings of most Nigerians. All they wanted was an apology. Acknowledge that something happened.
Said maybe
and apologized.
The procedure they used, maybe I did not agree so properly, but we are going to implement it. We are going to, and again, you cannot resurrect a dead person. We are not asking you to resurrect those 13 or 1 or 10 people.
Acknowledge that something happened.
Compensate them.
Well, some compensations were actually recommended.
Yes, for one person.
About
and then
70 million.
Find a way to chart a way that will prevent its occurrence. It's not to expend so much energy trying to condemn an effort of men of integrity that sat on that panel. Honestly, took all the testimony. You saw people crying, people expressing themselves on how they are reported, and all you've done as a government is trash it.
Say what there was no evidence. Say it was all sorts.
It shows. It speaks a lot.
The findings were clearly and manifestly not supported by evidence, and we had The Attorney General of Lagos State was one of the members of that panel.
They have people from the Ministry of Justice. I wouldn't know if the Attorney General.
Yeah,
they have people from
Ministry. If I'm not
Ministry
mistaken, yes.
All right. They have people from Ministry of Justice. They have people who, from government side, who participated in these proceedings.
And they all came together to say,
you heard the testimonies. You heard everything that happened, and you are so much in a hurry to condemn it because it did not favor the people. Until we understand that you sitting down there as the governor or as the president is as a result of the people or the mandate of the people that brought you there, then we are not going to, we will keep having similar actions and attitude. I feel for people who lost their life in that toll gate. Reading this will be as if they are opening the wound again.
All afresh.
All over. It's very unfortunate, I must say.
Okay, so that's that on that. Viewers, we will be going on a short break because this is the headlines we can take today. When we return, we shall be looking at our topic for discussion this morning: the legal concept of prosecution and proscribing a person or a group terrorists. Do stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers, and if you are just joining us, this is still your favorite morning program, now streaming, reaching you from ACNNTV. Do remember you can be a part of the program by calling in to give in your contribution or sending your comments through our various social media handles showing now on your screen. Recently, the call to proscribe bandits, unknown gunmen, killer herdsmen as terrorists has been overwhelming, and this has led to one of the federal high courts in Abuja declaring groups whose activities are linked to banditry as terrorists. This was stated on Friday, the 26th of November 2021. You're welcome to the discussion segment, and we shall be looking at the topic: the legal concept of prosecution and proscribing a person or a group terrorists. Still with us in the studio this morning to dissect this topic is our very vibrant legal practitioner and a concerned Nigeria. He is the barrister Ikechukwu Nwakama. You're welcome again to the show.
Thank you very much.
This morning.
Thank you.
So, educate us, sir, on the legal concept of prosecution.
You know, prosecution is a build-up of several factors.
Okay.
Before you could get that word persecution, there are a lot of things that must have come into play before you could say that somebody is being persecuted.
Okay.
Yes, I heard you when you say persecuted.
Sorry, that was a
No. It has also been recognized.
Oh, really?
Yes, when the persecutor is not just doing the work of, he just wants to convict at all costs. We say it's persecuting. No prosecuting. So you're very wrong completely anyway, depending on where you are looking at it from. Now, like I did mention, there are series of things that you look at it and then aggregate them to say there's a prosecution. First is that it builds up right from the point of arrest, which is in our criminal jurisprudence, it starts from arrest. Even though in more advanced criminal jurisprudence, it starts from investigation.
Oh.
Because for you to even arrest, it means that it's a cause for you to investigate. You have investigated and gathered a lot of facts before you could proceed to arrest. But here in Nigeria, arrest comes first.
Yeah, we arrest. We
just arrest you.
Shoot and ask questions later.
They just have to get you arrested before they proceed. So it comes from that point that somebody has a criminal allegation to answer. So prosecution tries to bring you before a competent court of law to be able to answer to those charges that has been brought against you. which normally starts from, like I said, an arrest. In most cases, somebody has to make a complaint, or a criminal act or a criminal activities must have occurred for, the arresting authority to proceed to arrest. So once the person is arrested, we talk about the issue of bail. We've talked about that quite earlier.
Yeah.
So you get a shorty. At the point, they can always invite you to interrogate you and get some facts. From there, if they've gathered...
Sorry to cut in, a question just came into my head. Are there situations where bail is not granted?
Oh, a lot of situations. In fact, it's good you ask. If it is a capital offense, and when we say it's capital offense...
Simplify it for our non-legal viewers, please.
Those are offenses that are punishable by either death or life imprisonment, depending on the circumstance. Now, if it is a capital offense, then even at the police station, they don't just grant you bail immediately, because the law allows them some space to investigate. But what we are saying, if they don't conclude the investigation within 90 days, the person is bound to be released. But what we discover that happens most times is that they get a detention warrant, maybe probably from a magistrate, saying that we need to detain this person beyond a number of time to enable us conduct investigation. So if it's a capital offense, like murder, kidnapping, in some states that have made kidnapping a capital offense, armed robbery, of course they cannot grant you bail. Even when they bring you before the court is wary to grant bail. They only grant bail on very, very exceptional circumstances, one of which is health grounds. And in that health ground, you have to show that the medical facility at the correctional center is not enough to be able to treat you. Yeah, so they don't just, because those are offenses that threatens the entire society, the public. Imagine you seeing somebody who had murdered someone walking around the streets. It creates a lot of apprehension. So prosecution proceeds all through arrest till the point when the person is brought to court to plead to the offense, either guilty or not guilty. Then coming back to what you have said too, or the question you asked, depending on the nature of offense, there are offenses that even when he pleads guilty, they are bound to record him not guilty. So to the point when the prosecution will lay down the evidence that had given rise to them charging this person for this particular offense. So when those evidence are tabled before the courts, then you have rights to debunk them, and the court comes to a conclusion that whether you are guilty or not guilty. So those processes leading to that is called prosecution. So it takes a lot.
Wow. And our viewers, if you have any questions this morning, do call in via the number showing on the screen this morning. And if you have anything to add, call in. We're expecting your calls. So what is the legal stand on proscribing a person or a group terrorist in Nigeria? Oh,
in Nigeria. I like that, because we've had a couple of situations where people have been proscribed, or a group of people, and they say we are not terrorists. Now, when you proscribe, it means you are in the legal context, you are declaring those people anti-states, or we call them other non-state actors. These are people who want to intimidate the government, or harass the people, or put to people in apprehension of fear, intimidation, either by death and all. There are a lot of things that are out of terrorism. So you are saying that these people are trying to pressure the government into taking a particular stance, or causing fear against the populace, or threatening the peaceful coexistence of the nation. Now, you are proscribing them. You are saying your activities are antithetical to our fundamental belief as a government. It's antithetical to the corporate existence of the nation. It is antithetical to the security of that particular nation. And therefore, we are going to treat you as an enemy of the states. Now, there are a couple of activities that government can look at to say, well, these activities has given rise to us saying that this particular organization
or group of people
are acting against the interests of the government. And good 18, under section 1 sub 3, you have kidnapping to be part of it.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you have kidnapping, you have even when people are producing chemical weapons or holding people in hostage and all that. And for you to get to the point where you're proscribed, there are procedures under Section 2 of the Terrorism Prevention Act. The first is that the president has to give approval of that particular group by way of presidential proclamation for that group to be tagged as terrorist group. Then when that is done, the Attorney General or the Inspector General of or the Office of National Security Advisor will now file an ex parte application before the courts.
Okay.
And that application is normally taken in chamber.
Funny enough, I actually know what that means.
Oh, really?
I'm feeling very proud of myself. It was on the show I learned.
Oh, really?
An ex parte motion is when the other person is not there.
Not to be heard. So
I know.
we're a good student. So you now have that situation where the judge will hear the application in chamber. And if the judge is satisfied that there are sequence or there are things that will require that particular organization or group of persons to be proscribed, the judge will issue an order. And once that order is issued, the order is supposed to be published in the National Gazette and 2 national papers. Now, because it's an ex parte application, the other party was not given an opportunity to be heard.
Absolutely.
The judge will now adjourn the matter to a later date in an open court, where that organization that is now being sought to be proscribed will have the opportunity to come and state why they should not be proscribed.
Oh, really?
So if the judge feels that, well, they shouldn't be proscribed, then the judge can vacate the order. You see the principle of check and balances coming into play.
Absolutely.
Yes, the president can by proclamation say, you should be proscribed. This organization should be proscribed. Then the court still need to look at it and then see whether it is possible. But where the court is satisfied, then the court can proceed to proscribe them, to make the order, permanent that they have been proscribed. It happened in the IPOP's case and all that. But just to quickly add, in this particular instance of we'll talk about the
killer herdsmen, kidnappers, and all that.
What people fail to understand that it's not the killer herdsmen and all that was proscribed. There were only 2 groups that were proscribed. Because for you to proscribe any organization or anybody, those bodies must have to be identifiable.
Oh,
the way banditry and all those crimes are being committed, it's not easy to identify them because they exist in different fractions. But the government has been able to identify 2 groups. I don't know if I can pronounce them correctly. We have the Yan Bigida group, and the Yan Tiada group. Now these are the only
Yan
2.
Taaba.
Or maybe Taaba. So these are the 2 groups that the government has effectively proscribed. So that we don't just go around and say, all bandits are. They don't know. Some of them are operating in a very small group and all that. Of course, you can't prescribe an activity. You have to prescribe an organization or a person.
You can't, or a person.
Yes.
So a person can be prescribed.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
If your action qualifies under those definitions of terrorism, yes, they can prescribe that person.
Okay, so with the recent happenings, last week, and the urgent call from activist group persons and National Assembly, do you see Mr. President signing to law the declaration of these 2 groups as terrorist groups?
I had mentioned earlier that it's even the act of the president that even commences the prosecution.
The process, okay.
Yes. So it is him that is requesting the court to prescribe them.
So the court last week, that was on the 26th, could not have come out without the
presidential proclamation.
Okay, so why is everybody now, educate us, why is everybody now calling for the president's head? Literally.
I think that is why some of these programs are very necessary.
We actually don't see
understand the process.
The background.
Just like I've explained the process. It commences from the presidential proclamation.
Let's just take, for argument's sake, that Mr. President did not do that. Could the court have initiated the process themselves?
Definitely not. The way that particular section is couched in such a way that the first and foremost process is the proclamation by the president, proclaiming that particular group as a terrorist group. So until that is done, you cannot go to the next phase. The president can proscribe and the Inspector General refuse to take it up to court, or the Attorney General refuse to take it up to courts. And the Attorney General has a constitutional powers nobody questions his prosecutory powers. You can't compel him. He's a constitutional power. He can decide not to.
Not to.
So it started from the president. So
okay.
people should not be worried because he had already given the proclamation. So, and he has completed his acts as far as that particular process is concerned.
And the courts have also come out to say. So, okay, so now we have a question on WhatsApp, and this viewer wants to know, the splinter groups of the bandits and the killer herdsmen, can their sponsors be proscribed terrorists?
In fact, once that organization is proscribed, if you are bait, if you hurt them, you are also
so
terrorists.
This is it. Like you said, they're not a body per se. Like the two groups that have been proscribed have been identified.
Yes.
The others, there are people, there are some that are just opportunists. Oh, this is lucrative, let's try it.
You are correct.
Then there are others that, oh, let's go.
You are correct. You are correct. Let's bring the bike.
Let's bring the bike. Let's go. Let's
bring the rope.
let's go. So we have those groups. Now, those people also have sponsors.
Yes.
And this viewer wants to know if, so they're not organizations per se. They're not, but they are terrorizing everybody literally.
Correct.
If those sponsors can be identified, can those groups now be proscribed as terrorist
Definitely.
groups?
Once the president is satisfied that the activities fall within the categories of things that have been defined as terrorism, which I had mentioned that kidnapping is part of it, holding people hostage and all that. Once the president is satisfied that those activities fall within those areas, definitely they can be proscribed. And at the moment, you see, the whole agitation for proscribing those groups is because of the kind of engagements. The manner at which you engage criminals are not the manner at which you engage terrorists. In fact, there are some weapons that when you are purchasing them, you have to sign an agreement that you cannot use this weapon outside territories or outside groups that are terrorists.
Oh, really?
So you can't deploy those kind of weapons, yes, to just maybe armed robbers, or you have to deploy them to those hard core areas of criminal activities. So that's why the clamor is there, like proscribe these people so that the military can have a full force and backing under the law to go after them with all the necessary apparatus they have. So if those sponsors are identified, if those groups are identified, yes, they can be proscribed. Okay. And whether or not they have been identified or otherwise, the activities squarely fall under criminal activities.
So, okay. So either way,
it's a crime.
They should be dealt with.
And in most states, they've made kidnapping as a capital offense. And they've made those kind of things as a very serious
Okay, so at the state level, that can be done?
Yes, it's the state
in Nigeria?
Yes, it's the state that decides offenses of kidnapping. There are offenses that are federal offenses. There are offenses that are within the states to proclaim.
Okay, sorry. Back up a bit. So you're saying that
kidnapping is a state offense.
Is a state offense.
Yes, it's not a federal offense. But terrorism
is a federal offense.
It's not a federal offense.
Okay. That's why they're calling for the head of the president.
Oh, definitely. and for me, he has done what he should do as far as these two groups are concerned. Yes.
Okay. So now back to prosecution. Can a person who was wrongly prosecuted, or in this case now persecuted,
yes,
file an action in court seeking judicial redress or a remedy, like seek for a compensation? And who gives the compensation, if at all such a person can win the case?
Okay. Well, I will start from most advanced nations where they've come to recognize that governments can make mistakes.
Oh, really? You think we don't know? You said advanced countries. You think we don't know that governments can make mistakes?
Nigeria, you saw what happened with the white paper. They feel they can't make mistakes.
Okay. That's the way we know. We know that.
Yes. So in those claims, yes, you can actually go after the government to compensate you for wrongful persecution and all that. But in Nigeria, we've not gotten to that stage yet, where person who has been unjustly persecuted can come back to say, compensate me for these your activities. And if you look at it, I think we should get to that point, because when we get to that point, it will help decongest the prisons. Some people are in prisons for doing nothing. And all it takes is just to file a criminal complaint against the person and then dump the person. And once there is an order of court, you can't say that the person is not properly detained. He's detained by order of court. So the detention is justified under the law. But when people now, and again, it goes down to a lot of things we'll see. People even spending their offense time in prison. Like someone's offense can be 4 years and he's in prison for 5 years. There's a particular case I did like that. And when the person was, when they passed the years of sentencing, we discovered that he had spent an additional 8 months. And I asked my Lord, who compensates for this time? And this is what the society should try and redress.
By my Lord, you meant the judge, just for our viewers.
Oh yes, yes. I meant, so I was just trying to, let the general public understand that there is need for us to, revive our criminal justice system, to understand that you can't just bring people and dump them in detention centers or correctional centers
for years.
For years, and they are there because you cannot go after the government for not doing their job properly. But there is a rider to it.
Okay. You
can hold someone for malicious persecution, which is a civil claim.
Talk to me.
That's what we call malicious persecution, and which normally arises where someone instigated the authority against the person in bad faith.
Okay.
And then the person suffered damages as a result of that. So let me just give a classical example. I have a neighbor, and we've been having issues.
Okay.
And the person just walked up to the police to say, this person is a kidnapper. And you know that they will definitely swing it to action.
Yes.
And they arrest me and then put me there. And after a series of everything and all that, police discover that this man has, why did you say he's a kidnapper? He's not. And maybe the court or whatever releases me. I can go after that my neighbor. Not after the police. You can go after police when it is a fundamental right issue. I will explain that.
Okay.
But let me explain this malicious persecution. So when I feel that my neighbor or someone has unjustly used the system against me to my detriment, I can file an action in court, which is a tort action. What we call tort is like a wrong in law, saying that I was maliciously persecuted as a result of this complaint. But there are things I have to prove. First is that I have been acquitted.
Okay.
Secondly is that there was no basis or any grounds for the person to have even done it. So when there is ground, okay, let me give an example. When the person suspects some movement in my apartment, or maybe shouts and all that.
Always hearing people crying at 2 a.m.
So you can then say, indeed, there is a reasonable grounds. But when there is no reasonable ground, that's another thing I need to prove. And the third point is that the person acted in bad faith. And it's quite difficult.
How do you prove that?
To prove bad faith, again, it depends on facts you put up before the court, and then that have suffered damages. So these 4 things has to be present for the court to say, yes, this was a malicious persecution. And in most cases, people come and tell you that I only reported to the police, and it's for the police to investigate. If the police fail to investigate, I don't control the police. So I shouldn't have I should have controlled the process of the investigation.
So it's actually difficult to get that redress, even if
it's very difficult, I have to admit. It's because of the hurdles. It's very, and they also look at it from the public policy aspect, that if we begin to fight everybody for bringing complaint to police,
then people will stop.
People will stop, but again, crimes might increase because there are people who genuinely, that's why the law requires that you have to prove that there was no bad faith and there was no reasonable cause for the person to have even done that. But when you do that, you might be cutting away the community from policing, and then that will cause some issues subsequently.
We have a lot of people look up to their church leaders, to their religious leaders, to their traditional leaders. And what role can these people play in fighting an unlawful persecution or protecting their members?
In fact, the church was one of the forefronts. If you look at the Martin Luther, the king.
That's Martin Luther. We're talking here now. Nigeria in 2021.
Yes,
December.
so you can see that this in 1st December. I
1st
get you.
December.
So you can see that the church has always been at the forefront of fighting for civil liberty, fighting for protection of human rights and all that. The church should wake up, and I think the first thing the church should do is to unite. And I'm sorry to say this, there's a lot of disunity in the body of God, and that's the people in government are taking advantage of it. If the church can unite, identify these things, I don't see why cannot set up an organization that will be responsible for protecting human rights. Can fund them. You don't even need to fund them. We have a lot of Christians who will volunteer
their time
to even do that.
Expertise.
But we don't see that happening in the Christendom. We don't see that aggregating professionals to be able to push for a goal. I understand that, yes, the Anglican Church has started putting some things, and Church of Nigeria has started doing some things, particularly when bills have been promulgated in the House. They now have committee that will go and look at it and then know whether the church should make a prayer. And that was a fallout of the Complaints and Allied Matters Act 2020 that took
that one.
Then the church woke up and said, that was when the act has been passed into law. And when the bill has been passed into law, then the church started fighting, say, why should we do that? But the point is, the church should realize that they have a duty, a very fundamental duty, to make sure that human rights, which is also attributed to the Bible. In fact, the first place we recorded right at all is in the Garden of Eden, where God himself asked Adam,
what have you done?
What have you done? He knows,
he heard him
as
out.
God. He knows, but he gave him that right, that opportunity, that right to be able to
I've never
explain.
seen that.
Okay. And it has been recognized. So the church has always, from the creation of the world, been at that. Not just the body of God and all that, and body of Christ has been at that. So we have to come to that realization and then start playing active role. The churches in Nigeria are playing very passive role. Well, I don't know how much time we have, but
we have just limited time.
To be honest, I feel the church should wake up and then.
So, what's your final word on the topic this morning?
Well, I'll start from the persecution.
Yes.
We need serious reforms in our criminal justice system, and these reforms should cut across all sectors, starting from the authorities, the police, down to the courts system, up to the correctional centers. Because the essence is to make sure we correct people who are defiant. Then proscription. I wouldn't think that proscription would be the solution to Nigeria's problem. You can proscribe as much groups you want to proscribe, but if we are not sincere in combating crime and criminal activities, we may not be able to get a result. So I will appeal on the Nigerian government to sit up and do more of investigation than prescription. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been good having you on the show again this morning. Thank you for taking out of your time to being with us. And
it's always my pleasure.
This is where we call it a day for today's program. We join the world in celebrating the World AIDS Day with the theme of the year, which says, end inequalities in your family, place of work, church, businesses, communities, and wherever you find yourself. Be an advocate for equality for gender, class, age, or tribe. Remember, know your HIV status. Till we come your way again, same time, same station tomorrow. Be a law-abiding citizen. Do good at all times. If you see something, say something, and always report criminal acts to the appropriate authorities. If you have not registered for your voter's card, please go and do so. We say it every morning. Please just go do so. Be a card carrier of a political party and be ready to be actively involved in politics. Governance is for all of us and not a selected few. Remember, God is our ultimate protector and deliverer, and therefore we should put our trust in him. Till we come your way again tomorrow, have a wonderful day.